The Prime Minister will be in British Columbia tomorrow, looking for him to finally reveal his plan to address these dismal polling numbers that the party has endured for months. What do you think the plan is here?
Another day, another scandal. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today, we've got potentially, it seems like there will be another coalition, a supply and confidence agreement. We've also got Mark Carney back in the news. He's been brought into the Liberal Caucus. So let's talk about this. So first up, posted on Justin Trudeau's ego. I just thought this was pretty funny how he wrote this. I'm about to sign a new and supply confidence agreement, but this time with the BLOC Québécois. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I will do anything I can to hold on to power, however unethical or immoral. I always thought Quebec was better than Canada anyways. This guy is hilarious. So we've got this here, BLOC Québécois, ready to extract gains for Quebec in exchange for supporting Liberals. This is the state of Canada. So if we go into this article here, this is getting pretty nutty. It says the BLOC Québécois is ready to wheel and deal with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's party for support during confidence votes now that the Liberal government's confidence supply agreement with the NDP has ended. And the Sovereigntist Party, led by Yves-François Blanchet, has already drawn up a list of demands. This is unreal. In an interview ahead of Monday's party caucus retreat, BLOC leader Alain Thurien said his party is ready to regain its balance of power. He called the situation a window of opportunity now the Liberals are truly a minority government. New Democrat leader Jagmeet Singh's decision to back out of the confidence and supply deal last week leaves the BLOC with an opening, says the party. While Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives promised multiple confidence votes in hope of triggering a general election, the BLOC's strategy is not to rush into one, instead use their newfound standing to make what they consider to be gains for Quebec. Think about this for a second. We've got a party in Canada which essentially represents one province. This is a federal party that represents one province. Imagine if we had a federal BC party or a federal Alberta party which is trying to govern the whole country. This is ridiculous. And this scumbag is now looking at doing a supply and confidence agreement with Trudeau to obtain gains for one province. This is ridiculous. Our government is run by the biggest boneheads ever. So on this, we have this CTV report here, which talks a bit about this as well as some other stuff regarding NDP, and it's got the Liberal caucus meeting.
It's not going to be a fun caucus meet for the Prime Minister. Oh boy, there are a host of issues that need to be addressed amongst the insecurity of some of the sitting MPs about their seats. But first, let's discuss how do you think the Prime Minister will be able to address the issue of the NDP and the path forward for this government if it survives till June 2025?
Sure. I mean, I think this, as others have said, like this doesn't mean that the government falls next week when the House comes back. It could mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means that we're in more of a period of ordinary time in a minority government where a government has to work with parties on an ad hoc basis as issues come up, as votes come up. There's nothing guaranteed. The government has to find a partner. And so that could be the NDP. That could be the BLOC Québécois. I think we can probably guess that it's not going to be the Conservatives. Yeah. But the reason, because the NDP has departed this agreement, it means that there are potential changes. If this parliament survives any longer, there are changes to the legislative calendar. And so things they could have taken for granted, now they can't. It could be that things are going to take longer. It could be that the NDP are going to try to extract some sort of concession, which could cost money. The BLOC might try to do the same thing. So a whole bunch of uncertainty comes up, even if the Liberal government is able to manage for another period of time. And so I think the MPs will have questions for the Prime Minister about how that will be managed. And amidst all of the chaos and the drama, how will the Liberals get some clear message out to voters that resonates with people before the next election?
You know, clearly the Liberals could have done a whole lot more this summer. Many have been critical, not much was done. We know that the Liberals have floundered in the polls for more than a year.
Justin Trudeau danced at the night market. He he did plenty of things. He made a fool of himself numerous times. He got humiliated and heckled all across Canada, including on the beach.
In one of the recent polls by Angus Reid, we'll pull that up, that shows that Liberals are at 21%, Conservatives at 43%, NDP at 19%. Talk to us about how ineffective the Prime Minister has really been in terms of taking on Pierre Poilievre.
It seems to me that the approach has been to pretend that nothing's wrong. And so even after the by-election loss in Toronto St. Paul's, which was significant, and the MPs know that, the Liberal Party brass, they all know this is a massive problem. This is an indicator of a potential disaster in the next election to lose a safe seat like that. It seems to me that the Prime Minister has kind of tried to downplay that. From the get-go, he didn't meet with caucus, and perhaps that was, who knows, maybe that was the right call for him. Maybe meeting with the full caucus in the heels of that would have been a problem for him. But it just seems to me from day one, there's been a downplay strategy. Now, he has met with regional caucuses. He's had conversations with MPs. I think he's done some behind the scenes work to try to set people's mind at ease to say, look, we've got a plan here. But when the numbers don't change, and now with everything else, right?
This plan is doing nothing. He's got nothing. Any sort of plan they've tried has not worked, and he knows it. He's screwed.
The NDP pulling away, with Jeremy Broadhurst deciding to step aside, it just seems like thing after thing is piling on.
Yeah.
And
Trudeau's campaign manager for that past 10 years, who told him you can't win, quite literally, he told him you can't win, left. What does that say? Trudeau is done.
Contributes to all of these factors together, feeling like the ship's just taking on a lot of water.
Indeed. In fact, those were the two major blows this week itself. But let's talk about, since you brought about the Toronto riding, with by-elections inching closer, September 16th, Montreal and Winnipeg, if the Liberals were to lose both, after losing the Toronto riding, do you think that this will further strengthen calls for a change in leadership altogether?
I mean, I think if the NDP were still on board, then yes. Then, in the event that Montreal doesn't happen for the Liberals, I think then there would be renewed calls for the Prime Minister to think about what he can do with the time the Liberals have left. If the Liberals could count on the NDP support until October of 2025, that would give them the space to figure out, how are they going to do this? How are they, they could actually have the time to find a new leader. It would be really tight, but they could kind of do it. But now that the NDP aren't on board, it means that the Liberals would have to try to replace the leader without knowing that they have the confidence in the House of Commons. And I don't know how that works. They'd have to try to prorogue, perhaps, which is going to be ugly. Yeah. And it's going to lead to calls that, the Liberals are hiding. And so I don't know about that. I think if they don't win Montreal, the call might be to go to an election and face what's coming, as opposed to try to change leaders, because I think, honestly, it's too late.
It's too late.
If they don't win Montreal, Trudeau is going to do the same thing. But, it doesn't matter. I'm king of the castle. He'll just brush it off like it doesn't matter. He's just going to hold on to power for another year. He likes walking around and waving at everyone and doing his thing, flying around on jets and just being Mr. Rich, Mr. Prime Minister. He likes playing the role. He doesn't like doing the job. He pretends he does the job. He really doesn't do anything, aside from hurt Canadians with all of these disastrous policies. So he won't give it up. He's a narcissist. He will hold on to the bitter end, whenever that is, whether Pierre Poilievre is able to force the election with a non-confidence vote, or depending if the Bloc support him, then all the way out to October 2025.
Too late. Okay, one quick question before I let you go, because what's interesting is Mark Carney at the caucus addressing the meet. What is that indicative of?
Well, I think, honestly, there has been so much speculation over the past number of years about Mark Carney's future. Back in 2020, when Bill Morneau left, there was speculation about, the Prime Minister's having conversations with Mark Carney. Honestly, to the extent that some people are paying attention to this whole side story about Mark Carney, most people, I think, aren't. Most people may not even know who this is or what this is about. But for those who...
The polling showed that only 4% of Canadians can identify this man, Mark Carney. So he doesn't have that star power of Justin Trudeau. And Bill Morneau, Bill Morneau is Bill no more. Let's get real. This has been a long time of the back and forth, and then maybe he's involved, maybe he's not, maybe he wants to be leader, maybe he wants to be finance minister. I don't know. I think this story has gone on too long, and I think he'll talk to the MPs about how to grow the economy, and then we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, but
Mark Carney, this greasy little Count Chocula, he doesn't want to be finance minister. This guy had that smug little smile when he's asked about being prime minister. He wants the king of the castle job. He doesn't want anything else. They're bringing him in, I don't know, it's a last-ditch effort. I don't know, I said in the last video that I didn't think he would touch anything to do with the current Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau. Maybe Trudeau's greasing the wheels there with some of our tax dollars. I doubt he'd use his own money. And how about a couple $1 million? Just come on in. Who knows? And on just that, we've got this one here where they're talking about that caucus meeting. So they're desperate. They're trying anything. And carbon tax, Carney, I don't know how they got him to step in the door, but brought him in.
Amid sliding polls and significant political blows, the federal Liberal caucus retreat in BC starts Monday as the party figures out its next steps. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will face a fretful and strained caucus, with MPs looking for him to reveal his plan to address the political purgatory the party has endured for months. Over the summer, several Liberal MPs privately and publicly demanded a meeting with Trudeau after the devastating by-election loss of a Liberal stronghold in Toronto. Now, the Prime Minister will be in British Columbia tomorrow with MPs looking for him to finally reveal his plan to address these dismal polling numbers that the party has endured for months. What do you think the plan is here?
Well, I think that one of the things he's trying to do is change the channel a little bit. We know that Mark Carney is one of those people who's been waiting in the wings for a tap on the shoulders if Trudeau decides to step down. So Trudeau's trying to get ahead of that. He's bringing Carney into the caucus meeting, which is clever. Carney got beat up quite a bit for not having run for Trudeau in the 2021 election. You might recall there was a phase where all of the Liberal pundits and people who were their mouthpieces on the air were, every time his name came up, said, yeah, but when we asked him to run, he didn't. So Carney's playing it smart as well. He's showing his availability. He's going into the caucus meeting. As for Trudeau himself, I think that your setup was pitch perfect. I don't think there's any better way to say it, Renee. Trudeau is in trouble with his own caucus. He knows that. He's in trouble in the polls. He knows that. The fact that Singh walked out this week is no help. And there are two by-elections coming up on Monday, the 16th, the same day Parliament goes back. And those could have a determining effect on Trudeau's future. One of them, in Winnipeg, the Liberals aren't in. It's basically a fight between the Conservatives and the NDP. NDP has a strong candidate, The Conservatives are throwing everything they can at it. They'd love to grab it. They have a chance of doing that. In Montreal, that's going to be the exciting one. From all the information I'm getting, it's split essentially 30-30-30 amongst the Liberals, the BLOC Québécois, and the NDP. Conservatives, again, are not in that one. They're at about 10% in the door-to-door polling. So if Trudeau were to lose that one, it's a safe Liberal seat. It was David Lametti, the Attorney General's seat. If he loses that one, Renee, that will be huge trouble for Trudeau. So this is all against the backdrop of a very nervous caucus. And you know what? When you're a leader of a party, I talked to you a bit about that. You don't like it when your caucus is nervous. You like to have them buoyed up a bit, feeling good. Nobody, people are saying very open things. Wayne Long, MP, saying, look, we have no chance of defeating Poilievre if Trudeau stays as leader. So that's pretty. Yeah,
Wayne Long came out again. I think it's the second time he's done this. He came out again and grilled Trudeau. So Trudeau's done. His own party doesn't support him. He's got his loyal crew right around him, his little den of thieves. The bigger den of thieves, they're kind of starting to bounce. They don't trust the guy. They know they're running them into the ground. They know they're going to be losing their jobs, yet they still supported this guy for so long. So many people's jobs just wiped right off the map because they supported this buffoon.
Tough stuff to hear from somebody who was a Liberal MP.
Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, a lot of people see former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney as a potential successor to Trudeau. Is there a chance he's not just there to help with a financial plan, Tom?
Well, I think a little bit like we were saying before. He's doing it a bit for the party and a bit to help Trudeau, because it does help Trudeau that he's there and it gets a little bit of pressure and changes the topic a bit. But at the same time, he's doing something for himself because he's got to show himself to be a Liberal loyalist first and foremost. This is one extremely capable guy. He's very, very smart. I hear some people try to dismiss him, saying, he'd be like Ignatieff because he's never been in politics before. That'd be a serious mistake to compare Mark Carney to Michael Ignatieff, two totally different beasts. This guy grew up in the Northwest Territories, very humble roots, went on to the most amazing jobs. And even today, Renee, he's got a top job at the United Nations on climate change and finance.
Let alone he's the governor of the Bank of Canada, governor of the Bank of England. The guy knows how the system works. He can run circles around Chrystia Freeland, a reporter who knows nothing about finance. So that's why Trudeau wants him in there, because it adds credibility to him. Now, maybe Tom Mulcair's right here, and he's bringing in Carney, and Carney's agreed to come in more, I should say, because it gives him that, it points to all the Liberals that he is a Liberal loyalist. So when the party is down, he came in, but he's going to distance himself from Trudeau, and he's just kind of coming in a bit there to give a bit of street credit in terms of his record, not so much of his star power. I don't know. It just gets nuttier every single day in this country.
This guy is the real deal in terms of these very important jobs that he's had over the years. And the Liberals, are giving him a serious look. There are people in cabinet who are top-notch, think Chrystia Freeland, but every time anybody would talk...
Top-notch, really? Are you talking about the position she holds? Because not her intelligence level.
Talk to them in a debate, or if they were to become the leader, they'd have to wear every single bad decision of Justin Trudeau. So I think that the idea of freshness comes with Carney, and we'll see what type of reception he receives. I don't know if the cameras are going to be allowed to be there when Carney is introduced, but I'd love to see what type of applause he gets from the caucus.
Is there a chance that Trudeau steps down at this meeting? Is there a chance he steps down ever?
No.
Well, when you saw this week when nobody saw the Jagmeet Singh's move coming, except Poilievre, who actually asked for it. But, that sometimes these things do come out of the blue. With the return of Parliament, there is such thing as, holding back. You can prorogue Parliament. We went through that famously with Harper. And then that would reset the schedule. It would dump a bunch of legislation. So I'm not sure he'd want to do that because there are things in there that Trudeau quite finds reasonably important for his future and for his legacy. But will Trudeau step down at some point? I still think that that's a real possibility. He's got another career ahead of him. There's tons of things that he could do in the private sector. This guy would be, command top dollar and be really in demand. But right now...
Yeah, if you got a snake infestation in your house, you can bring in Trudeau. He'll sniff them out. He'll know right where they are. I'm sure it works with rats and bats and any other vermin in your house. Trudeau can sniff them out. I said it before. Why would anyone want Justin Trudeau, the guy who has destroyed Canadian lives? He has caused misery to 41 million people. He's got people living in the streets because of his policies. Why would you want that pile of hot garbage in your business?
His political fortunes are on the wane. I don't know if he actually believes that he's going to be taking on Poilievre. He says he is because he has no other thing that he can possibly say. Otherwise, he's a lame duck. But does he actually believe that he's going to take on Poilievre with the numbers? Consistently now, Renee, for well over a year, the Liberals have been double-digit behind the Conservatives. And I think that everything, if you listen to the polling, if you listen to the door-to-door, and I've been talking to organizers in Montreal and in Winnipeg, just saying to me, look, on the doorstep, it's brutal about Trudeau. So I think he's got enough political sense to know that he's not very popular right now. He doesn't have much of a chance, and he's probably looking for an elegant way out. And maybe the first step is inviting Mark Carney into his caucus.
He's not looking for an elegant way out. We're talking about Justin Trudeau, King Narcissus. Oh, I'm number one. I'm number one. Oh. That's who we're talking about. The guy loves just being in power and flying around the country. He's making a ton of money, and the access to his power, the money he's sending around the country. I mean, we have to investigate all these things. I mentioned a few times here, like $135 million he sent to the Congo for gender something. Let's just bring it up. And we've got this one right here. Minister Hussein announced $142 million in funding to support health systems and women's health and rights, and provide humanitarian assistance to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Like, this is nice and all, but when we got Canadians living in our streets, we don't have money for this. $142 million. You know how many people you could lift off the streets with that? Development and Peace implement $10 million project aimed at improving the inclusion of women in public and democratic life. Like, why is that our job to pay for that? $10 million? Are you kidding me? Santé Mode World Health will implement $24.5 million project aimed at improving reproductive rights and health and rights in women and adolescent girls. Like, yeah, that's nice and all. They should pay for their own. If we're stinking rich, sure, then we can help. We're not stinking rich. Our country is suffering right now. International Alert will receive $3 million in funding, an initiative that will support center expertise, humanitarian, This program here, $5 million, aimed at preventing and responding to gender-based, bad stuff, bullying. This is great. I'm sure our country could use this funding for this exact reason. I mean, look what's going on in our streets in downtown Toronto. I can't even show you guys on this channel right now. My rating is getting better on this channel, so soon I'll be able to show you more news. But until then, just watch my second channel for that stuff. Anything that's a little more spicy goes over there. But yeah, we've got a bunch of people who wave those green and red and black and white flags, blocking the streets, just fighting in the streets, fighting cops. Maybe we could put $5 million to educating those people the rules of Canada instead of sending it to the Congo. $27 million for humanitarian, that's great and all, but what about the humanitarian needs in our own country? So this is one example. This is one. The question now is, you got a lot of these African countries are just the governments are so corrupt. Is Trudeau going to stop by and just get a briefcase handed to him and, oh, here's your $14 million out of that 145. Thanks for sending that over. Seriously, we need an audit on all of this stuff. Because when you send that much money to all these different countries, is there a $10 million briefcase at every single one of these? Like, we need an audit, a paper trail of every single dollar. Otherwise, there could just be $10 million briefcases for all these liberals in the Congo and Sudan and South Africa and wherever, Egypt, you name it. We got this comment here, which sums it up. Trudeau rearranging the chairs of the Titanic. That is it. Trudeau would not be in high demand by the public sector. I mean, if you want an absolute terrible leader, a bad man, and an even worse prime minister as someone a part of your organization, I mean, maybe he'll go to Yuck Yucks and bring a couple laughs. I don't know. People can heckle and humiliate him. Maybe it'd be a big hit. He's a narcissist. He won't step down. He's put the country in trouble for 9 years. Someone would hire Trudeau if he quits the Liberal leadership. Like, who would be that stupid? He couldn't help a lemonade stand. One of the firms that promised him when he gave them grants. Yeah, I mean, you got these companies like McKinsey, who he's given millions, $200 million to, 220, something like that. Maybe it's someone like that, like this guy said here, like GC Strategies, exactly. He's allowed is a liberal den of thieves to funnel millions of dollars to. Those are the only companies. Next up, we got this here in Indian news. So that's right, we've made Indian news once again. It says the Canadian dream is actually a nightmare under Trudeau.
Today, youngsters emigrating to Canada are struggling to find jobs that match their skill sets and also pay them well. Many are complaining about higher taxes, high housing costs. We have been telling you about Canada's housing crisis for a while now. The country is not constructing enough housing units. As per government data, there is a shortfall of around 345,000 housing units across Canada. And to top that, record high interest rates have made the new housing units extremely expensive for most people. Students are being forced to cough up abysmally high rents. It does not get better for them, given there is also a shortage of part-time jobs. So the end result is a nightmare, not just for people who are in Canada on a student visa, but children of immigrants who are fresh out of school and are looking to live independently and become financially independent. Millions of people have moved to Canada over the years. They have been lured by the promise of an easy immigration policy and have been fooled by the prospect of a better life.
Well, she really summed it up there. Yeah, I mean, nailed it. Things are bad in Canada. I mean, even here it says Canadian dream became a nightmare. 17.5% immigrants who arrived between 1982 and 2017 left Canada. That's 18% have left. Next up, we got this posted by Melissa Lanceman. Hey, Jagmeet Singh, you approve of this flag on your guy's flyer? Yes or no? This is disgraceful. This is the NDP guy running for the by-election here, and like, look at this. This is disgraceful. I know they're pandering to the Palestinian people, but get out of here with this. There's not a Canadian flag out of here. You're not a Canadian. This is, like, I find this offensive. You look here, like, some of these people are getting blocked by Craig. Like, what kind of politician? You can't block people. That you have to listen to all the voices. If you don't like it, tough luck. Don't go into politics. This one, too, has the same thing. Is he running for chips and hummus in Palestine? What a maroon. This proves the NDP put Canada last. Wow, that's freaking bold. No flags above our own. Exactly. There should be only like a Canadian flag. Canadian flag. What an utter disgrace. Weird, that's not a Canadian flag. Exactly. So next up, we got this post from Brampton, Tim Hortons. Customer shocked by the amount of trash. This is just gross.
So many clean.
This is disgusting. Tim Hortons gone downhill real fast. So next up, we got this guy here. It says in Toronto, Canadian man showed thousands of Muslim women praying in a park. There are 120 mosques in Toronto. Thoughts? I mean, this is pretty crazy. In general, I mean, in the park is not that bad, but I mean, if people want to use the park for, you know, playing soccer and doing whatever, they can't. If there's dedicated buildings for this, they should be going to those buildings, because now kids can't come here and play soccer or baseball or whatever. That's my 2 cents. It's not hurting anyone. It's not as bad as the people doing it in the streets and blocking major infrastructure, which is against the law. I don't think they should be doing this here. As it says, 120 mosques in Toronto. I mean, go there. That's what places of worship are for. Jumping over to my group, let's see what memes we've got today. Wipe your feet here. Canada moves to limit immigration amid strained relations with U.S. That is interesting. Saving money is a luxury. You can't, in this economy, expect people to put away 10 to 30% of their salary for rainy days when we live in rainy days every day. Every day is a rainy day for someone with a small salary and massive expensive. Yeah, this is so true. Just the cost of everything is way too much. There's no emergency fund. There's no saving these days. How India's most sacred river is under the threat from pollution. So I've got a little game here I want to show you guys with India. So I saw this video going around. They said to grab the little man on Google Earth in the bottom corner here, it's just off screen, and drop it anywhere in India and you will find trash. And I thought that was a joke. Watching the video, they did it 4 times and there was trash in every one. And I was like, well, maybe they just picked spots they knew there was trash. I tried it myself. I kid you not. I did this 11 times and there was trash everywhere. So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to grab the little man on the side here. You see this guy? Drop it somewhere in the bottom down here. I mean, okay, surely if there's like somewhere in the green spaces here, there has to be something, right? It's like click in this little spot here. It's like, no, trash. So I started zooming in here. See this forest? I'm like, surely I can find something. Okay, there's a photosphere in the middle of the forest. There's no roads here. We'll drop it here. There's trash. There's trash everywhere. Even look at this pristine, beautiful waterfall. There's trash. So it doesn't matter where you basically drop this guy in India. Every single place there is trash. Now, why do I bring this up? This is not to shame the country of India being dirty and full of trash. It's that we need to educate people coming from India that you can't put trash in our country. That is not acceptable. We like being a clean country. We don't accept trash anywhere. We need to start cracking down on littering. Maybe we need to set up a system where if you film somebody littering, you can send it in and then government will then send out those fines of $200 or whatever. Like, we need to do something to educate the people from India because they're just so used to this. They're used to literally trash everywhere that maybe they just don't care. They chuck their can out the window. I feel like there has to be some initiative here because, you know, I saw this happen. I was like, there's no way. Like, I just dropped another one here. You know, at first glance, you're like, oh, okay, this is not messy. You can zoom in. There's just trash everywhere. Feel free to try it out, Google Maps, and try it yourself. Try to find a spot that's clean. But I think we need a serious education policy. Like, let's just try dropping one here. We'll drop it somewhere in Vancouver so it's populated. Look, where's the trash? There's no trash. And sure, there's dirty parts of Vancouver or any other city in Canada. But I mean, in general, we just don't have, like, okay, there's like one paper down here, 2 papers. There's not going to be trash everywhere. So bug rations, gross. Somewhere between 1955 and 2023, things went terribly wrong. Here's a list of MPs who are losing their pensions if election were called early. Jagmeet Singh.
Tax.
Rain tax.
When's the rain tax coming?
What's the rain tax?
Oh, you
Tell me about it.
You tell me.
I don't know. You're the one that talked about it.
You know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
I'm just having fun.
Okay.
She's the one who announced a rain tax. Why is she playing like she doesn't understand? Ugh. Japan nervously awaits Justin Trudeau's state visit. My dog ate my Scrabble game. Now his crap makes more sense than you. I know about work. I can understand. My great-great-great-grandfather had a job. What if they close grocery stores? We have to hunt for food. I don't even know where little Debbie lives. I actually spent a year growing the majority of my food, about 80% of my food. So it's not easy. That's all I can say. If you want to really live on just no grocery store, that's going to be a tough life. Another day, another story here with the Liberals. So the key question is, Mark Carney, Trudeau's going to bring him in and somehow twist his arm, got him in there. He'll be in for the caucus meeting, maybe bring a little bit of credibility. He's hoping, I'm guessing. I don't think Carney wants to get too close to get that stank on him from Trudeau. But more importantly, is the BLOC going to sign a full-fledged supply and confidence agreement with Trudeau, or are they only going to support on a case-by-case basis? I wouldn't be surprised if they set up a full agreement to benefit only Quebec.